happy to talk to you, man, especially because as we spoke before, mad respect for your career and everything that you've done. Um, Always kind of envious because you were in the land of much music where I always wished I was. And before I even keep going, um, I think one of the funniest things for me the last couple of years was the being at the Much Music documentary that was at Roy Thompson Hall. I do remember, and you
I
guys
remember
were
your
all.
question to the panel.
Well, it was mostly for Denise Dodlin and
Why
getting
you
a chance.
didn't you ever hire me? I think I looked at her and I went, yeah, why didn't you ever hire Rudy?
That was so much fun, man, because I'm seeing people that I can say I grew up in the industry with, so successful, and then you on that, during that time, not only for the Much Music video documentary, but you were also releasing your first book, man. And it's been amazing to be part of being, for me as a music journalist, to be able to talk to a master music journalist. How was that year for you to talk about your life in a book with the Much Music the Much Music documentary going on? So much was happening for you then.
It was interesting and it lasted a while too. I thought, okay, put the book out, done. But no, there was like over 200 interviews throughout that period. So a happy has been. The book was out. The documentary was touring Canada. I did some dates with that, and there was these amazing fun Q&As after each one. The Much Music stamp came out shortly
That's
after
right.
that,
Yeah.
um, and book tours, and in all these interviews, other stories were coming out that I thought, oh man, I missed that part. I didn't write that in the book. I didn't add that to the book. And I started hearing from enough people where they were like, "Are you going to do a part two? You can do a part two?" And I thought, okay, I'm not going to do a part two. I'll just add to the original published version. So it's like 80 pages, 60 pages longer now. There's a lot more stories in the middle and a great big long afterward at the end that talks about what happened in those 2 years of putting the book, because so much has happened. I lost a job.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't realize that.
I yeah. Chorus Entertainment announced they were over $1 billion in debt last year,
Yeah,
and so they made major cuts across Canada. Kingston, unfortunately, was one of the markets where
that's
they,
right.
they shuttered the building. A
Yeah.
70-year-old heritage station, and the radio, was cut, and it was very sad. We all got packages. We were all okay, but I hate not working. And so, yeah, there was all this stuff going on, and so I thought it warranted a second edition. So that came out about a month ago, and that's it. Not going to be a third or fourth edition. That's it. I mentioned in the afterword, if I was to get hit by a truck after that first book was published, I wouldn't be very happy because the story was not complete. So now the story is complete.
I don't think it's complete. I think there's still more to this.
Well, the
Because did
beautiful
you?
thing about the afterword is I could talk about those book tours. I could talk about the interviews. I could talk about meeting total strangers that, Much Music had a huge part in their lives, and people were telling me I was their babysitter growing up. It's weird. And I also, it was a chance to thank everyone that purchased the book. It was a chance to thank and be grateful for the comments that I received. And it was a chance to thank journalists like you who, and I did, Rudy Blair's in there, for continuing to do what you do and to hold that mantle of bringing amazing interviews where we don't really get a chance to see a lot of them. So thank you for doing what you do, and you deserve all the respect in the world, man.
Love you for that, man, and thank you. But that goes back to what I was going to ask just a moment ago. All these people are thanking you for being my babysitter, things like that.
which is
You
weird.
do you now have an idea of how much of an influence that you've had on journalists alone, like myself, who learned how to do interviews watching mostly Much Music and the way yourself and the other VJs uh, conducted themselves?
I did an interview yesterday, someone from BC, and she pretty much said what you just said. And usually when I hear it, it goes in one ear and out the other because you don't want to dwell on it. But I've learned in the past couple of years to stop, listen, understand where they're coming from, and just say thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. And it's all about gratitude. I talk about gratitude in the book, the importance of saying thank you. And never before in my life have I ever used that as I did in the past 2 years. It's just being grateful for the opportunity to not only, yeah, do what I've done, but also the opportunity to talk about what I've done. But yeah, what a fortunate position. Very grateful.
Do you look at yourself differently now in the mirror? And the reason why I ask this is because talk about the original title of the first book, but now talk about the title of the second part.
Well, the book is still called A Happy Has Been, but it's a second edition with more stories, more pics, more fun, is how I've sort of.
But that's what I mean. That's that second part of more fun because to me the first part, which I argued with you about, I didn't like that happy has been. Hated that because that's not you. But the second part, I feel like even though you've added more, you're looking at yourself now a little differently because now you see the fun part of what you gave us all these years.
Well, and like I said earlier, it really hit home the past couple of years with how much music has been elevated and how people miss it. And the other thing that blows my mind is I think we took it for granted. I think Canada took it for granted. The idea of our music specials, a 1 hour music special. Go to New York, interview Bon Jovi. I would produce and edit a 1 hour special based on my interview. Go to France, interview Shania Twain, do an hour special based on that interview. I started getting emails about a year and a half ago going, oh, I saw you in that Woodstock documentary. I saw you in a Marilyn Manson documentary on Amazon Prime. I saw you in a Bon Jovi Amazon Prime series interviewing John Bon Jovi. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of it. So what's happened now with, you know, Netflix, Amazon, they have accessed that amazing Much Music library. And I don't know how much they're paying. It might be just a credit. I don't know. But all these interviews from all these years ago are now being utilized in pretty big productions that are getting streamed worldwide. So yeah, if you never got a chance to see my Kiss special that is on YouTube, there's other production companies that are accessing first generation tapes of these interviews, and they're running, and it makes me think, wow, we miss music specials, we miss music documentaries. We grew up with them, but there was a time where they went away, and now there's a time where they're coming back, and a lot of these producers are accessing that library as a launching off point for older interviews or for stock footage or for, it's amazing. But there was a while there where, and there's going to be more. There's a huge documentary on Toronto Rocks,
Yes.
SARS Fest.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
So
was
I've
at
been
Source
asked,
Fest.
and so they're accessing our footage of the library, and I did all the interviews for that with Justin Timberlake and AC/DC and Rush. So there's going to be another music documentary using old footage again. So it's a pretty amazing perfect circle.
I'm just curious because I was on the side of the stage when when people were throwing things at him. Did
Oh,
you ask him about that?
no, I talked to him in the his rehearsal. So
Ah,
we saw that unfold later in the day. Um, but yeah, and I love how the Stones came to his defense. Like,
yes,
we invited him up here. Stop it. But who the hell pees in a bottle and throws it? Like, what are you doing?
I
What are you
know.
guys doing? You
Oh,
know,
but for people who had nothing to do, didn't know anything about that, one thing to point out, and I'm not justifying anything for what people did because it was ridiculous. He was just literally going solo, so people were still in their heads. He's this boy band kid
good point. Yeah, I'm not
who
taking
was
him seriously. Yeah,
exactly, and we're gonna make sure of that. And then look at the career that he's had. So, you know what? He turned that one around completely. And no, sorry, go ahead.
oh, and what a professional. He didn't walk
Yeah.
off stage. He finished his set. He did a great job. And I was never a big boy band fan in the 90s, but what I did remind people all the time was like these guys work their asses off,
Yeah.
and so when I got a chance to hang out with the Backstreet Boys a couple of times, or hang out with Howie. I never would listen to them when I go home. Yeah, the songs were catchy as hell. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I could not take away from the work ethic from those guys and from all those boy bands. And so, yeah, you don't want to give Toronto a bad name. And I'm sure in the deep, dark recesses of his mind, Justin Timberlake, hopefully he forgot about it, but we'll think, oh, Toronto, yeah, that was where I had bottles of piss thrown at me. But at the same time, Toronto also showed him a lot of love over the years with his fans. So,
That's true.
yeah.
Very true. What was one story that you forgot that seemed to keep coming up and you said, okay, this I have to make sure is in the book?
Someone reminded me, I did all the national morning shows coverage for
Yeah.
the book. I was in the old building at 299 Queen Street West doing your morning CTV. And I was in the green room waiting to go on. And some of the people that I used to work with still work in the building all these years later. One of them reminded me, he was the cameraman, one of my cameramen that I had backstage for those couple of days of Starstock, Toronto Rocks. So we were shooting rehearsals during the day or two before the actual day, which we went live and did other interviews. So I interviewed Jim Belushi, and I had totally forgotten about this. Jim was performing with Dan Aykroyd, Have Blues Will
Right.
Travel review. Jim Belushi, and I love John Belushi. And so they finished the rehearsal, and I asked Jim, I go, what a weird day this must be for you, in that, you know, you were on SNL, your brother was on SNL. Rolling Stones had these amazing early performances on SNL. Here you are opening up essentially for the Rolling Stones. And he kicked my ass. He like literally kicked me in the ass. He goes, "Who's my brother?" And I went, "John." And he kicked my ass again. And I went, "What?" He goes, "I understand the sort of blanket you're weaving here. It's good. It's good." And then we finished the interview, and then he left. And someone said to me, he hates talking about his brother. And I thought, well, A, I didn't know. B, I thought it was a great question.
It was a great question.
But Dave Harnden, our cameraman backstage, reminded me of that day when I was in Toronto doing the morning show. And he's laughing. He goes, "Remember that time Jim Belushi was kicking your ass?" And I went, "What?" And he reminded me of that story. And I thought, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. So that story is now in the book. So yeah,
I'm
there's a few things like that.
I'm glad that is in there because people don't understand this. I've had my own situation where I didn't know there are certain questions that you're not supposed to ask certain artists, but nobody would tell you that, and you wouldn't even think it because you would think he'd want to talk about his brother. Why wouldn't he?
You
You
know,
know
I don't think Jim Belushi would have been on SNL if it wasn't for John Belushi. You
exactly.
know what I mean? So, maybe that was part of his past that he tried to downplay. I don't know, but I thought it was a great question. That was an amazing question. Tied it all together.
And that's why I love and miss those days so much with those kind of interviews. Raw, off the cuff, something crazy happens live. and there's nothing you can do except keep going with it. And that's what you and the rest of those guys did. And nobody did it better anywhere on the planet. And I will put MTV or whoever else up against you guys.
Mm.
You guys, to me, were the best. You were the staple point. And the Much Music Video Awards said it all too, because nobody did the Much Music Video Awards the way you guys did it. Nobody in the world.
Well, yeah, and we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We didn't think it'd be groundbreaking. It just so happened to be. But I did an interview I was mentioning yesterday. We were talking about, live versus taped interviews. And it's true, there is an energy, there is a vibe with live interviews. You know it's live, it's national. People, we didn't have streaming back then, but you could watch it on the internet. Depending on your wherever you were in the world, it was herky jerky, but the technology wasn't quite where it is now. But it was live, and there was people, and there was an energy in the room each time that I did it, and you feed off of that. The artist feeds off of that. It comes back to the audience. They get more excited, and yeah, I don't see that anymore anywhere. So yeah, and to be right there at ground zero, surrounded by all of it. Again, it was a beautiful thing, and I don't take it for granted ever.
Uh, is it a sad moment now knowing that
The
the
building?
home, yeah, that it's closed up? I don't know how many times I was out there, man, when the streets were blocked up because
Yeah.
there was an artist that was performing there, or some big movie like Twilight or whatever, and they shut down the street. Fans were out there and things were happening. You, Rick, the rest of the folks. It was, and me as a reporter trying to be over in the corner, trying to talk to fans and get as much info as I can to report back to my station. It was such an era, man. And
Yeah,
now
man.
it's like you said, it's quiet.
I don't like to look back too often. I've been sort of forced to, and I brought it upon myself, putting out a book that does look back, I guess. But nothing stays the same. And sometimes you need things to go away to look back fondly on it. And yeah, I'm just glad they didn't get rid of the footage. The one great thing about that Much Music doc that happened in 2023 was that Sean Menard, the director, started to digitize a lot of these old tapes. What's happened is they carried on, even when the doc was done, digitizing all these old tapes. So even though the building is gone, the library, maybe all those tapes are gone, many of them have been saved on some hard drive somewhere. That, as I said earlier, you know, people will eventually see all this stuff. And it's funny, like I get emails every now and then. Oh my God, I saw your interview with Age of Electric on on YouTube. What? And they'll send me a link, and it's like, yeah, someone recorded my Age of Electric interview on Much Music live and posted it up on YouTube. I totally forgotten about it. And I had like long hair and stuff. So, fans also have all this stuff saved on VHS. And
Yeah.
gotta love it when they're uploading all this stuff on YouTube. You know, I remember the Refreshments. Remember that band?
Dude,
Um, how far down do you want to go where we could talk it out over a cup of joe and you could look deep into my eyes like I was a supermodel. Uh-huh. You remember that song?
I remember that song, man.
The Rembrandts? What a great tune that was. Anyway, someone says, oh my God, this is you interviewing the Rembrandts. I go, I don't remember interviewing them. Sure enough, there it is live on Much. It's on YouTube.
And I think it wasn't you. I think it was Mike Williams though, Doug and the Slugs, when they did the documentary recently, and there was footage from Much Music on that. I do believe, if I remember correctly.
There's another great
Um,
example of another documentary that utilized that footage.
yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's going to be more. There's one on Oasis. I'm hoping, thank God, they accessed my footage because I've had the best Oasis interviews throughout the years. Um, and yeah, whenever I see, oh, the Red Hot Chili Peppers are getting a documentary treatment, I'm like, oh my God, we talked to them so many times. I've had great interviews with them. So hopefully in the next couple of years, there'll be other documentaries and streaming services showcasing these interviews. I would love that. I
I
don't
know
get
what I
any
would.
money. Someone actually asked me if I had any money for these old interviews. Like, no, no.
I would love to see, even though you said that, the second edition is out now, and you're like, done. Is there any chance for an audio book or even turning the book itself visually?
Okay. I've been asked about an audio version. No plans yet. I would love
Mhm.
that. But did I ever talk about the movie?
Yours?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. It debuted at the Kingston Canadian Film Festival in March 2nd. So when the book came out, I gave an early copy to a Kingston filmmaker. He loved it. He wrote a script loosely based on my life, loosely based on the book. And it stars me. And he goes, if you don't say yes, I'll find someone to play you. But I'm asking you if you want to play yourself in this movie. I said, I'm not an actor. He goes, I'll coach you along the way. I read the script and oh my God, it's brilliant. It was so yeah, it's loosely based on my life, which is weird. But and I recruited Rob Baker from the Hip. He has a scene where he plays himself, offering me life advice. So the idea is that I'm in Kingston. I want to move back to Toronto. There's this new music channel that started up. And so I got a phone call to come back. They want to see me interview bands. So I'm interviewing all these Kingston bands and stuff happens. It's a big film. There's like a big, huge scene at City Hall. There's like a big yacht scene out in the middle of Lake Ontario. There's it's a big film. Anyway, we shot it over
Wow.
the course of a year. It premiered at the Kingston Canadian Film Festival. I don't know what's going to happen to it now. I think it's going to tour other festivals. Um, Rob Baker is amazing in it, even though he plays himself. But it's a very poignant scene talking about how you can't look back. Anyway, the thread throughout the film, this is why I love it, is me doing interviews with all these Kingston bands with real live performances. And so to me, that's the beautiful thing about this movie. So I sort of take a piss out of myself, and it's funny because the director in the original script, I said, I'm kind of a dick in this movie. I'm okay with it. After we started working together, he goes, Bill, I can't make fun of you. You're such a nice guy. So he sort of softened me in the film, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've always been one of the nicest guys
Oh man.
in this industry. No, because you know this industry as well as I do, man. Egos can fly high, and you've
Yeah.
never ever been that way at all. What do you think has always kept you grounded?
Hmm. I think just a great mother who always taught me passion and compassion and empathy. And I've just always maintained that. What I did was not brain surgery. I didn't save any lives. I know the importance of entertainment and how it's a great friend and how it's a great escape. But yeah, I never looked at myself as a celebrity ever, ever. Um, if other people do, I'm quick to correct them. But you know, it's funny. The larger the ego that you think someone is going to have when they're not, when they don't have an ego, really puts it in perspective the people who shouldn't have an ego that do, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. Yeah. And I never wanted to be that guy, you know? I have never, ever had someone come up to me and say, oh, my friend met you 10 years ago, or my friend met you 20 years ago somewhere. They said you were an asshole. No, I've heard the opposite. And I love that. And I'm grateful for that. Or someone will say, oh, I met you 20 years ago and I don't remember. And I'll say, was I nice? And they're like, oh my God, you were the nicest. Okay, good. Thank you.
No, we say thank you to you and to the crew and to everyone else. And I'm so glad the second edition is out and that you were able to add in all these other pages and more stories. I still believe there are more stories. So I still feel like we're going to do this again. But either way,
I hope not.
it's it's always a pleasure getting the chance to catch up with you, man. And I am so happy I grew up in the era I did. I am so happy that I worked in the era that I did and that I got to watch the highlight with Much and when I look now, it's funny when you say, you shouldn't look back and whatever else sometimes. I say the only way you can look forward is by looking back. You got to. You
Yeah,
got
and
to.
I've learned to appreciate it. But again, I don't like to live in the past. I think the future is so much more exciting.
I agree with you, my friend. Thank you so much for the interview once again.
I love you, bud. You keep doing what you're doing, like I write in the book. This journalist like you, and I name drop Rudy Blair, that does amazing work still. So congratulations, bud. You take care.